Once upon a time, in a little town called Pina, not far from Brunswick, Germany, a boy named Solomon Perel was born on April 21st, 1925. Solomon, affectionately known as Sally, was just 8 years old when a man named Hitler rose to power in 1933, becoming the leader of Germany. As Hitler's influence spread, life became increasingly difficult for Solomon and his family because they were Jewish. To escape the terrible treatment of Jewish people and to avoid being sent to ghettos or worse, Solomon embarked on a dangerous journey where he had to keep his Jewish identity hidden. What happened next was nothing short of amazing. Through a combination of luck and bravery, Solomon found himself first serving in the German army and then becoming a member of the Hitler Youth. Later in life, he wrote a book about his experiences during the war and how he managed to survive. Life for Solomon's family became unbearable after Hitler came to power in 1933. Their shoe shop had to be closed because Hitler's followers, known as stormtroopers, painted signs saying "Don't buy from Jews" on their windows. Things got even worse in 1935, when new laws forced Solomon out of school because he was Jewish. Slowly but surely, Jewish people like Solomon were being pushed out of normal life. In 1936, Solomon's family fled to Poland, hoping to find safety there. They stayed with Solomon's aunt until September 1st, 1939, when Hitler's invasion of Poland changed everything, setting the stage for a world-altering conflict. As tensions escalated and mistreatment among fellow Jews became more common, Hitler began constructing ghettos to isolate and segregate the Jewish population from others in Poland and Germany. Upon learning of these plans, Solomon's parents made a crucial decision that likely saved his life. They decided that Solomon and his 29-year-old brother Isaac wouldn't go with the family to the ghetto. Instead, they would flee eastward to the Soviet-Polish border to join the Russian army. Sadly, their brother David, who was already serving in the Polish army, had been captured, and their sister Bertha stayed with their parents for reasons Solomon didn't explain. After they were over the border, Isaac left Solomon in an orphanage before heading north to reunite with an old flame. Solomon spent 2 relatively pleasant years at the orphanage, making friends, joining a communist youth group called Somal, and learning Russian. But his thoughts were always with his family. One day, Solomon received a wonderful surprise when Bertha appeared at the orphanage. She had escaped the ghetto with a friend. They shared a joyful reunion before Bertha set off to find Isaac in Vilna, where he had settled with his wife, Mira. Sadly, this would be the last time Solomon saw his sister. In 1941, the situation took another turn when Germany violated the German-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact and launched a full-scale attack on the Soviet border. At just 16 years old, Solomon found himself once again fleeing as a refugee, this time being the youngest among the group he joined. When the Nazis captured them, Solomon acted quickly to conceal any evidence of his communist beliefs and Jewish background. He destroyed his papers by grinding them into the ground under his feet and claimed to be an ethnic German named Joseph Pergel from Grodno. Fortunately, the officers believed him and accepted him into the German army, providing him with a uniform, food, and a place to sleep. Remarkably, Solomon not only lived and worked among the other German soldiers, but he also served as an interpreter for Russian prisoners who had been badly mistreated. Despite his fears of being discovered, Solomon became well liked among his comrades. However, there was always the constant worry of being exposed, which made him feel isolated and lonely. This fear heightened when he faced unwanted advances from the medical officer, Heinz Kelsenberg. One day, Heinz cornered Solomon in the shower, a moment of vulnerability where his Jewish identity could easily be revealed due to his circumcision. But in a surprising turn of events, Heinz recognized Solomon for who he truly was and promised to keep his secret, showing that there were decent people even within the ranks of the enemy. From that moment in the shower, a genuine friendship blossomed between 16-year-old Solomon and the 30-year-old Heinz. Heinz stopped his advances and assured Solomon that he would watch out for him. On September 8, 1941, the siege of Leningrad began. During a near-death experience, Heinz saved Solomon's life by shielding him from an explosion, sacrificing his own life in the process. Solomon held his friend as he passed away. Despite the loss of Heinz, Solomon survived, and the siege ultimately failed, signaling a turning point in the war. Sometime later, in 1942, Solomon was called to the captain's office. Due to being underage, he was informed that he would be sent to a Hitler Youth boarding school. Given false papers claiming his original documents were lost, Solomon was sent to the SS Rand boarding school in Brunswick, where he would spend the next 3 years, right under the noses of the Nazis. During his time at the boarding school, Solomon endured the same indoctrination as other German children. He attended lessons where he was shown hateful caricatures of his own ethnicity and taught about the supposed superiority of the Aryan German race. Living in constant fear of being discovered, Solomon also faced the challenge of communal showers where the risk of exposure was ever present. To protect his identity, he had to carefully craft foam to conceal his circumcision, hoping it would be enough to keep his secret hidden. Despite the hardships, there were still moments of joy and laughter to be found amidst the oppressive atmosphere of the school. Despite the difficult circumstances, Solomon even found love with a young BDM girl named Lenny. They enjoyed many outings together, but Solomon always had to keep his true identity hidden. As time passed, it became clear that Lenny's mother suspected Solomon wasn't the pure German Hitler Youth he pretended to be. But once again, luck was on Solomon's side, as she chose to keep his secret safe, even from her daughter. In Christmas of 1943, Solomon visited the nearby Löcknitz ghetto where his parents had been held. Despite the risk, he couldn't resist trying to find out what had happened to his family, but his search ended in disappointment. By this time, the war was taking its toll on Germany. Although some refused to admit it, the outcome was becoming increasingly obvious. Soviet forces were pushing back Nazi-held territories, while Allied forces were landing in Normandy, dealing heavy blows to the Third Reich. Despite the looming defeat, SS officers continued to insist that Germany couldn't lose. The Hitler Youth carried on with their training and indoctrination, with Solomon now serving as a platoon leader. When the Americans stormed their camp, Solomon and his troops were spared. Recognizing them as young and naive, the Americans scared them before releasing them along with other German refugees. With the war finally over, Solomon Perel could finally discard his false identity and embrace his true self once again. After years of evading the fate that befell so many other Jewish people, Solomon Perel was finally free. He returned to Brunswick, where he met Manfred Franco, a Jewish man he had known before. It was from Manfred that he learned the truth about Auschwitz, a place he had only heard vaguely as where Jewish people were sent from the ghettos. Despite his time in the Hitler Youth and all the mentions of Auschwitz, Solomon had never realized its true horror as a site of Jewish genocide. He had never even heard the term "the final solution" mentioned. Traveling further, Solomon discovered the fate of his family. His brother Isaac and his wife were alive and living in Munich, and David had managed to escape to Palestine. However, tragically, his parents and sister had not survived the Holocaust. In 1947, after receiving this news, Solomon journeyed to Palestine to be close to his brother. There he eventually published his highly acclaimed autobiography, detailing his extraordinary experiences. This book later became the basis for an equally acclaimed film. Thanks for watching the video, and if you found it informative, please like and subscribe to Time Capsule for similar content. We look forward to sharing more knowledge with you in the future. Until then, take care.